back this morning on David and we're studying his life. And we're in chapter 20 this morning, where in this chapter is especially the beginning of it, the opening of it, when David says to Jonathan. But let's recap for a second before we get into the chapter 20 of 1 Samuel. So, David was brought in because Saul lost his position in God's eyes. He did not do what he was supposed to, what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to wait on Samuel to sacrifice the lamb before they went to war, and Saul was looking at the Philistines getting closer and closer and closer, and he didn't see Samuel, and he goes ahead and tries to do it himself. In other words, he took Samuel's role when it was not his role to take, and anyway, it cost him dearly. And so Samuel goes and looks for a new king, and he comes across this little lad, David, and David was roughly 15, 16 years old when he was anointed king, but his time had not yet come. And then, of course, we know that David comes upon the children of Israel, the army of God, God's army, and they were all hunkered down, and Saul was scared to death. And David's like, "What are y'all scared of? I'll take care of this. Nobody's going to defile God and his army." And he goes out there and he slays Goliath and takes Goliath's head and brings it to Saul. And Saul had made a promise to David before he went out there and done that, and then he reneged on that promise. He didn't even give him the wife he said he was going to give him, because that woman was already married to somebody else. But anyway, here's where I want to camp for a second. The very next thing that takes place is Saul and David are coming in from battle, and the ladies of the city sang a song that Saul has killed his thousands, but David his 10,000s. And that right there triggered this entire scenario that we're in right now with David. Saul became jealous. Now, I want to camp on this a second.
We also got past the point where his wife let him go, and he ran back to Samuel.
David, yes.
Yeah.
Right, but let's stop right here about the little song that was out that hit number one on the Billboard charts. There's two types of people in this scenario right here. There's the one that couldn't do it, can't do it, and did not succeed in trying to do it. And then there's the one that does it and does it good, right? So I think a lot of times, and especially in today's society, that the ones that are jealous are the ones that can't do it, but does not want to see you succeed in doing it, because then it makes them look bad because they couldn't do it, right? And then you got the one over here that's doing it, doesn't know that's going on, so the one's working behind the scenes trying to take you out because you took their spot that they was unable to maintain or could not do as well as you. Is it fair to David that Saul is jealous and wants his head? He's tried to kill him 3 times now. Is it fair to David that just because David is doing it well, that Saul should be trying to take him out? Is it fair to us that because we can do a job better than someone else that maybe has been doing it for a while, and we come in with some new ideas and we fix it, we make it better, and they get jealous, so therefore they try to set us up to get fired or taken out? Because that's what happens. And then let's talk about David for a second. David knew Saul was trying to kill him. David could have killed Saul easily. David did not say, you know what, Saul, just, it's just a matter of time and you're out and I'm in. I was anointed to be king. So keep doing your little stupid stuff. I'm going to go somewhere and just wait for you to die or for God to take you out because I know I've got your spot, man. David did not tell nobody, nor did David rub it in Saul's face. What did David do? David loved his king. Rather than be killed or fight for his life, most people in this scenario, when somebody throws a spear at them, they would take the spear out of the wall and throw it back at them and kill them because they knew their life was in danger, right? And they would be justified. Not David. Because David knew it was not his time. And I'm pretty sure, Samuel, that just because it's not in here, conversation, Samuel probably told David, you better keep this between you, me, and God. Don't go around bragging. Don't go around to your brothers bragging, especially them. Don't go telling your daddy. This is between me, you, and God. And God will let you know when it's your time to be king. But until that day, David, you love your king, you serve your king. Because that's what God expects. And with us in today's time, God favors somebody who respects authority. Now, if you can't respect your authority on your job or with the law or whatever, you're not going to respect God. Let's just be honest. If you don't respect authority, whether it be in the workplace, the lawful enforcement, whatever, if you don't respect them, then you're not going to respect God. Therefore, God looks at that. God's like, well, he don't even respect his boss. He don't respect law enforcement. He's not going to respect me, so I'm not going to try to. I can't use him the way I want to use him, or her the way I want to use her, because they don't even respect authority. I am authority, so they're not going to respect me. David respected God. David respected authority. David could have took Saul out, man. He just went and killed. He didn't give Saul 10,000 foreskins. He gave him 20,000. He was a skilled soldier. By now, you don't think he could have took David or Saul out? No, he could have. So you got these two different people walking two different paths, but are supposedly set up to do the same thing. Both of them are set up. Saul is king. David will be king. And you don't think David's looking at Saul's, and he's probably thinking, well, I know I'm not going to do that when I become king. I know I'm not going to do that when I become king. But I'm probably going to do that because he does this well, He's learning from Saul and Saul's mistakes. And he also is watching Saul to know how to be an authority over his people. So I think a lot of times, everybody's got that boss at work or has had that boss at work that they show you no respect whatsoever. They railroad you, they try to use and abuse you, and, this is why Wednesday night sermon was really for me, with the tongue of fire. I can't tell you the forest I've burnt with my tongue. Because, unfortunately, I come from a father who had a temper of a lion and a bear, and a mother who had a voice like a mockingbird. Mama was quick to speak and not to think, son. Whatever she was thinking or whatever popped in her mind, she let you hear it, and she done it instantly. And I have her traits, and I have my dad's traits, and I am constantly warring against my flesh, trying not to allow that to happen. And so, if we want God's favor on our lives, basically in a little bitty nutshell, it all boils down to where we stand with authority, with respect, with commitment. All these things that basically is the structure of being a strong, godly man or godly woman. But let's let's get into the Word. And that was just a little recap and some thought that I had coming into this morning to the church about the two different types of people here and what their roles are and what they're doing. So in chapter 20, the Bible says, Then David fled from Naioth to Ramon and went and said to Jonathan, What have I done? What is my iniquity, and why is my sin before your father that he seeks my life? That's sad, isn't it? David asking Jonathan, what have I done? So Jonathan said to him, By no means. You shall not die. Indeed, my father will do nothing, either great or small, without first telling me. And why should my father hide his thing from me? It is not so. And David took an oath again and said, Your father certainly knows that I have found favor in your eyes, and he has said, Do not let Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me and death. That's David. You know, he's telling Jonathan, he ain't going to tell you. He knows how close we are. There is one step between my life and my death. That's it. So Jonathan said to David, Whatever you yourself desire, I will do it for you. David said to Jonathan, Indeed, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king to eat. But let me go, that I may hide in the field until the third day of evening. If your father misses me at all, then say, David earnestly asked permission of me, that he might run over to Bethlehem, his city, for there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the family. If he says thus, It is well, your servant will be safe. But if he is very angry, be sure that evil is determined by him. Therefore you shall deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. Nevertheless, if there is iniquity in me, kill me yourself, for why should you bring me to your father? He's basically telling Jonathan, if this doesn't work out, your daddy's angry, then I want you to do it. I don't want him to do it. I want you to do it. Could you imagine hearing that from your best friend? But Jonathan said, Far be it from you, for if I knew certainly that evil was determined by my father to come upon you, then would I not tell you? And David said to Jonathan, Who will tell me, or what if your father answers you roughly? Or Raleigh? And Jonathan said to David, Come, let us go into the field. So both of them went into the field. And Jonathan said to David, The Lord God of Israel is witness, when I have sounded out my father sometime tomorrow or the third day, and indeed there is good. Toward David, then I do not send you and tell you. May the Lord do so as much more to Jonathan. In other words, did Jonathan saying, if Dad's got something planned against you and I don't tell you, may the Lord bring that on me. He's trying to reassure David that if something's going down, he's going to tell him. And he's going to do everything he can to make sure he knows it. That's a friend. We're talking about his daddy being that's a friend. But if it pleases my father to do you evil, then I will report it to you and send you away, that you may go in safely, and the Lord be with you as he has been with my father. And you shall not only show me the kindness of the Lord while I still live, that I may not die, but you shall not cut off your kindness from my house forever. No, not when the Lord has cut off every one of the enemies of David from the face of the earth. You know what he's saying there? David, when you do finally get this position and God has removed all your enemies for you to take this role, don't forget me and don't forget my house. Because of what my daddy's done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty powerful. And you'll see later on that David honors this. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, Let the Lord require it and the hand of David's enemies. Now Jonathan again caused David to vow, because he loved him. For he loved him as he loved his own soul. Then Jonathan said to David, Tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed, because your seat will be empty. And when you have stayed 3 days, go down quickly and come to this place where you hid on the day of the deed, and remain by the stone Ezel. Then I will shoot 3 arrows to the side as though I shot at the target. And there I will send a lad, saying, Go, find the arrows. If I expressly say to the lad, Look, the arrows are on the side and get them and come, then as the Lord lives, there is safety for you and no harm. But if I say thus to the young man, Look, the arrows are beyond you, go your way, for the Lord has sent you away. And as for the matter which you and I have spoken of, indeed the Lord be between you and me forever. Then David hid in the field, and when the new moon had come, the king sat down to eat the feast. Now the king sat on his seat as at other times, on a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, but David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul did not say anything that day, for he thought, Something has happened to him. He is unclean, surely he is unclean. And it happened the next day, that the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said to Jonathan his son, Why has the son of Jesse not come to eat, either yesterday or today? So Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked permission of me to go to Bethlehem. And he said, Please let me go, for our family has a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has commanded me to be there. And now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please let me go away and see my brothers. Therefore he has not come to the king's table. Here we go. Then Saul's anger was aroused against Jonathan, and he said to him, You son of perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, you shall not be established, nor your kingdom. Now therefore send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die. Now they had this conversation, didn't they? And Jonathan answered Saul his father and said to him, Why should he be killed? What has he done? And Saul cast a spear at him to kill him, by which Jonathan knew that it was determined by his father to kill David. He tried to kill his own son. That's how bad this has got. I'm telling you, this is where anger and jealousy and covetousness, this is where it leads you, man. This is where it leads you. It leads you in a bad place. So Jonathan arose from the table in a fierce anger and ate no food the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David, because his father had treated him shamefully. And so it was in the morning that Jonathan went out to the field at that time appointed with David, and a little lad was with him. Then he said to his lad, Now run, find the arrows which I shoot. As the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. When the lad had come to that place where the arrow was which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried out after the lad and said, Is not the arrow beyond you? And Jonathan cried out after the lad, Make haste, hurry, do not delay. So Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows and came back to his master. But the lad did not know anything. Only Jonathan and David knew of the matter. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to the lad, and he said to him, Go carry them to the city. As soon as the lad had gone, David arose from a place toward the south, fell on his face to the ground, and bowed down 3 times. And they kissed one another, and they wept together, but David more so. Then Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, since we have both sworn to the name of the Lord, saying, May the Lord be between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever. So he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. This is 2 best friends having to say goodbye. because of the circumstances at hand. Now, for a father to want to kill his son, his own son, because of the relationship he knows that son has with this person he don't have one with, he's pretty in bad shape, isn't he? This is what jealousy does. This is the difference between somebody following God and serving the Savior and serving the servant. And this is where it'll lead you. You know, there's a story out a long time ago. It's talking about jealousy. That a man and his wife went to a retreat. The wife said, "I want to go here. This is where I want us to be." Anyway, they get there, and the next morning, the wife's boss man knocks on the door, and he asked if the man's wife was there, and he said, "Yeah." And so she went outside, and they stayed outside and talked for a few minutes, and she come back in, and the husband's like, "What's he doing here?" "Oh, she said he's just here with his wife. They're celebrating too." And he goes, "Yeah, but how did he know you was here?" He said he told me that he saw us or whatever, and he just wanted to come and say hey. He goes, "Well, why didn't he say hey to me?" So the husband had done in his mind, started to try to put two and two together, right? So that night, the boss man come back and asked, could she come and they do some work together, work on some stuff about work. And so the wife's gone for 3 hours. She comes back late. It wasn't real late. It was dark. She comes back. The husband's in such a rage, man. He kills her. Well, there's a gymnasium on that facility that he had saw. And so he drug her into that gymnasium, and when he opened the doors to drag her, he was going to put her under the bleachers. That was his mindset. The lights come on, and it's a surprise. It was his birthday party. She was planning it, or her boss was helping do it, and everybody was there, and he walks in dragging his dead wife. He killed her over something that he thought he saw that wasn't there, and when they opened the door, the whole family, everybody shouted, "Surprise, happy birthday," and he's holding his dead wife in his hands, dragging her in there. That's pretty bad. That's what jealousy and rage can do for you. You know, it can make you believe a lie. It really can. How many times have you been upset about something only to find out that it wasn't true? But how long did it take you to come down off that in order to really believe it? Even after you saw it was a lie. You still got that mindset. It takes a minute, don't it? It takes a while. Yeah. And so Saul's in trouble here, and so is David. David just had to say goodbye to his best friend. They both cried and wept. We just read they had to tell each other bye, and even had to say to one another, now, between my family and your family, there's a problem. And it's a bad problem. And we can't be seen together. You know, I'm sure he told David, Daddy tried to kill me. He threw the spear at me too, David, because he found out how, he knows what I'm doing. He's not stupid. And so now, the relationship's over. David's got to go somewhere else, and he's on the run now. Because the king wants his head. All because of that song that was sang by the ladies in the streets as they were coming back from war. Saul has killed his thousands. David his 10,000s. And it affected him in a very bad way. But he was already in trouble, wasn't he? Because he had done messed up with the Lord anyway. And I don't know, man. This Christian walk thing is a serious matter. It's a matter of life and death. And we can go through life based off how we feel, and it can cause cause us a lot of problems. Or we can go through life and let God tell us let God lead us rather than our feelings. Walk by faith, not by sight. And leave all the consequences to God. But I can tell you that He will always make sure that He's out for the best interest of us because we're His children. Would a parent not be out for the best interest of their child? Absolutely. And that's what God is with us because He loves us. So when we get back into David next week, we're going to see that what happens and where he's at on the run. And man, it's horrible that what David goes through. And we're going to learn too that I think that David made some mistakes along the way as well. But when you're scared and you know your life's on the line, you're going to make silly choices and decisions because you're on the run, right? Kind of like shooting into the woods when you don't know what's out there. But anyway, let's ponder on this week, man, about what jealousy, how far jealousy and rage can take you. It'll take you all the way to the end of your life. So let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, I just come to you this morning in thanksgiving and praise, Lord, for your word, for how we can take this, Lord, and apply it in our lives and see the mistakes that are being made right before our very eyes, and then the consequences of that action. Every action has a consequence. A good action, good consequence. Bad action, bad consequence. And Lord, may we just learn from your word. That's why you wrote it. Thank you for writing it. Thank you for these examples that you took time to make sure we see, Lord, the do's, the don'ts, the ins, the outs. Lord, we love you today and we praise you. We ask as we go into the service this morning, Lord, that it's anointed and that your word gets across. We love you, we praise you, we thank you, Lord, for it's in your precious and holy name. Amen.